What if the problem isn't that progress isn't happening, but that you're measuring the wrong things? Because a lot of people are working incredibly hard, doing everything that they've been told to do, and still feeling like they're falling behind. Not because nothing is changing, but because changes don't look like what they're expected to look like. If that sounds familiar, stay with me. We live in a world that measures progress by speed and outcomes, grades, milestones, productivity, independence, how quickly something improves. And if progress doesn't show up in those ways, the assumption is that something isn't working. But real growth, especially in complex situations, rarely follows a straight, visible line. Over time, I started noticing some patterns about progress and that no one really talks about. There are 5 things in particular that shifted my perspective, and I want to share those things with you. The first thing that I realized is that speed isn't the same as growth. Faster doesn't always mean better, and slower doesn't always mean worse. Some of the most meaningful changes take place because they're building capacity, not just producing results. And capacity building is most invisible while it's happening. Another thing we don't talk about enough is what comes before skills. Before new skills show up, other things have to be in place: understanding, safety, regulation, trust, and confidence. If those pieces aren't there, progress on the outside is short-lived. So sometimes what looks like no progress is actually groundwork. There was a point where I realized the goal I was focused on wasn't actually the goal that we needed. I was looking for outward improvement, something measurable, something obvious. But what needed attention first was stability, understanding the situation better, adjusting expectations, and creating an environment where growth was even possible. Once that foundation strengthened, everything else started to make more sense, not overnight, but steadily. That experience shifted how I looked at progress completely. Something else that makes progress feels invisible is comparison. We don't measure against where we started. We measure against what someone else is. But different starting points create different timelines. Different needs create different paths. And comparison can make real progress feel insignificant. Another factor that quietly interferes with progress is pressure. When the only acceptable proof is visible success, everything starts to feel urgent. Pressure increases. Confidence drops. Decisions get second guessed. And ironically, pressure can interfere with the very growth you're trying to support. Growth thrives in stability, not chaos or panic. All of this leads to one bigger realization. We may need to redefine what success actually looks like. What if progress isn't just about outcomes? What if it's also about increased tolerance, better recovery after hard moments, improved communication, more flexibility, greater understanding, and stronger coping skills? These changes don't always get celebrated, but they matter. They make long-term success possible. This isn't just about parenting. It also applies to healing, career growth, relationships, personal development, any situation where the work is internal before it becomes external. So here's something you can actually do. Instead of asking, why isn't this changing yet? Try asking, is capacity increasing? Is there more understanding than before? More stability, more adaptability, more resilience? Those are signs that something is working, even if the final outcome hasn't arrived yet. If you've been feeling discouraged, it may not be because you're failing. It may be because you've been taught to look for the wrong indicators. Progress isn't always loud, it isn't always fast, and it definitely isn't always linear. But if the understanding is growing, if stability is increasing, if you're responding differently than you did before, something is happening. You may not be behind. You may just be measuring the wrong things. And once you change the lens, you may realize you've come farther than you thought. And in the next few videos, I'm going to start a series called Things I Wish I Knew. We're going to be talking about diagnosis, support, expectations, and parts of this journey that no one really prepares you for, but that matter the most. If this perspective helped you think differently, stay connected. These conversations matter. I'll see you in the next one.